Hey everyone, welcome to the Sports in the Mitten podcast powered by Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor, MrSpotsAnnArbor.com. I'm your host, Michigan and Michigan State beat writer Adam Biggers for FanRag Sports, and we're going to keep this one quick today. I know I say that, and I have been called out on it. It's going to be a fun show. Earlier I asked for some questions, slow response, but I figure I ask a second time, that usually helps, and you guys did not disappoint. So we have a lot of great questions today, some funny Twitter comments. I'll get into previewing the Big Ten Media Days, which is Monday and Tuesday in Chicago. I will be there covering it for FanRag. I'll have probably live stream, some form of podcast, a lot of written content, video interviews. If you follow me on Twitter, at AdamBiggers81, I think you know what to expect. So I want to talk about what we should expect from Michigan and Michigan State in Chicago, and I wrote about that. That's on FanRag Sports, at FanRag_U on Twitter, at FanRag Sports, and the Michigan State preview is up right now, and I believe the Michigan preview will go live either tomorrow, which is Saturday, or maybe Sunday, but I think it's going to be Saturday. So, like I said, just your guys' questions. Previewing Michigan, Michigan State, kind of what are people going to ask, basically? What are going to be some of the stories, some of the angles coming out of there? And I think I have a pretty good idea, so we'll get into that. But before we do that, I want to get to your questions, and I want to thank everybody for participating in this. It's always fun, and like I said, I wasn't disappointed this time at all. So the first question today comes from Michelle Morris, at BakingMom14. Thoughts on the young Michigan secondary? Well, that's an excellent question, Michelle. Thanks a lot for asking. I think we all know that without DeMonte Thomas, without Channing Stribling, without Jordan Lewis, without Delano Hill, there's a lot of inexperience back there, right? But I think, and we've talked about this before in past podcasts, I've written about this as well, and I think what we heard last year about Lavert Hill and David Long, and I think David would have been right there in the two deep had he not got injured. Mm-hmm. So I think that is kind of a, I don't want to say if it's like reassuring, but it's not like it's not like these are just a totally new group of guys that don't know what they're doing. I mean, they've been around. David and Lavert were there last year. Don't forget about Keith Washington either. I think Keith might figure into the two deep somewhere in there as a cornerback. I think he's going to see a lot of playing time. Tyree Cannell, also another guy. And then if you want to lump Khaleke Hudson in there as a safety, and because we usually refer to him as a Viper, but a safety as well. So I think, and then Benjamin St. Juste as well. There's 6, 7, 8 guys that I can see getting legitimate playing time. So I don't think that there's any worry on the young secondary. My thoughts on it, Michelle, it's talented. I mean, we're going to see what it can do on the field, right? And a lot of times, I mean, and college football, if you recruit well and these guys get a year of experience, I don't think it's outlandish necessarily to expect, these guys to immediately contribute. And I think, I heard a lot of good things about Ben St. Juste during the spring. I remember talking with him. Drake Harris also converted to a cornerback too. So I mean, taking Jeremy Clark's not there anymore. Jeremy was like 6'4", 230. I mean, Drake adds some height and some length in there. Benjamin St. Juste does too, and obviously Drake not a young guy, but the young core of the secondary. I'll get back on topic, Michelle. I promise. Young core of the secondary. I don't think there's anything to worry about, and those are my thoughts on it. Sean Michael, at Sean Michael 80. If you're on Twitter and you tweet about Michigan or Michigan State, you probably know Sean Michael, and he's pretty funny. He does have his moments. And this one, will MSU football players keep their hands to themselves? Well, on defense, I don't think so. Sean, I think if we're looking at it from a defensive perspective, I think that they're going to want a little bit more aggressive defense. I know Michigan State's defense was not aggressive last year. Michigan State got thrown all over on teams threw all over Michigan State. Let me get that out there. There wasn't an imposing defensive end like a Marcus Rush or a Shalik Calhoun. I mean, there was Malik McDowell, but he wasn't high gear all the time. He wasn't healthy all the time. So in terms of defense, if you're a Michigan State fan, no. You don't want them to keep their hands to yourself. You want them to be aggressive. You want them to get up in guys' all the time. So thanks for the question, Sean. I know that's exactly what you were talking about when you asked me that. So I appreciate that. Scrolling up, this one comes from Josh Whitney, and that was a reply to Sean at Josh Whitney 88, and that's at Sean Michael 80. So please go follow him. You'll recognize the avatar of Sean flexing in there. So I think that's Sean. I don't know. Josh Whitney wants to know, or actually he more or less has a comment. They will take a real hands-on approach to this season. I agree, Josh. Just like I just said, with the defense, I think that you have to expect Michigan State to be a lot more aggressive this season, and I don't think there's... And being seriously, jokes aside, yes, I do think that they will have a more hands-on approach, so take it as you will. Oh, let's see. Going. Dustin Shoot. If you're not following Dustin, it's at Shoot, SCHUTTE _ B1G FB. He's an up-and-coming Big Ten football writer, former writer for us at FanRag Sports. He's off to other opportunities right now, and Dustin's a great follow, very knowledgeable. And he asks, is Wilton Speight good enough to start at Michigan? No. I quoted the tweet, excuse me, a retweet. I said, hell no, and as a joke. I think everybody who reads my stuff, watches, listens to the podcast, they know my feelings on Wilton Speight. Wilton Speight is Michigan State's quarterback. I should just have that on record and play at the beginning of every show. No, he's not good enough to just start at Michigan. I think he's good enough to start anywhere. I think if you put Wilton Speight at any Division I program, he will compete for a starting job. Wilton Speight, he's not the greatest thing since sliced bread. And he's a very good quarterback. I think there's still a high ceiling. I know that there's a lot of Michigan fans who aren't sold on him, and I don't feel like that they saw the real Wilton Speight. I don't think that they know this guy's character, his drive, his commitment, and all of those things that maybe don't always get talked about enough. He is the leader of the offense. There's no question in my mind. So is he good enough to start at Michigan? Hell yeah, he's good enough to start at Michigan. He did it last year, right? And when everybody wanted John O'Corn. And I think, like I said, you put Wilton Speight at any Division I program, and Wilton will compete for the top job. He'll be one or two. And, I mean, he's talented. He's on the Maxwell watch list. He's on the Davey O'Brien watch list. The Maxwell watch list, obviously, a little bit more prestigious. But yes, Wilton Speight is good enough to start at Michigan. Wilton Speight, I've made this comment before. Flip it if you're a Michigan State fan. I think that you would be happy with Wilton Speight as your starting quarterback. Or if you're an Indiana fan, or maybe not an Ohio State fan, because they're still not satisfied with JT, and all he has done is set records. All Wilton Speight did last year was have one of the best quarterback debuts in Michigan history. So, and he was also third in the Big Ten in passer rating, if that matters to you. Because I know a lot of people like to throw these stats, and a lot of these like to cite the overthrows and everything like that later in the season. Those happen when he was not completely healthy. Look at his quarterback rating, look at his completion percentage, and then come back and talk to me. LG, I hope you're watching this, because, man, you are very critical. You got to look at Wilton Speight for who he is. And LG, everybody knows who I'm talking about. Okay. Clayton Truder, and here's a great one, and Clayton, also a great follow, at Clayton Truder, Clayton, Trutor. He's very funny, and he's also a writer, and I'm going to plug his site, staff writer clairvoyant at Down the Drive, SB Nation Cincinnati Bearcats site. So if you're into the Cincinnati Bearcats, or if you want to talk about Nick Van Exel, I might talk about Nick Van Exel, Clayton. If you want to talk about Van Exel or Cincinnati Bearcats or even Mark D'Antonio's tenure in Cincinnati, all that stuff, Clayton is probably your guy. He says, tell me about your most memorable experience at a fast food restaurant. And I love this question because I think everybody who knows me knows that I love to eat all the time. I'm a pig. I should be huge. I don't know why I'm not. I did challenge Eric Magnuson to an eating contest. That was not a good idea. But I think Eric would vouch for me. I can put away the food. Matt Godin, I think, can also vouch for me. I could put away the food. We did that at Mr. Spots. I'm looking forward to doing it again next summer with the graduated or drafted players. So, anyway, my most memorable experience at a fast food restaurant. It's Friday, so I want to keep it positive. I've had a lot of negative, especially with the drive-thrus by my house over here in Flint off Dort. And KFC is horrible. I once waited in line. It was not even busy. There were like 2 cars ahead of me. Waited in line for 20 minutes just to get to the speaker. I think they were the only place open. Or I really wanted the Georgia Gold chicken, so I was willing to wait because it has pickles on it. So I was willing to wait. Finally, I get up there. It was 15, 20 minutes, no doubt. I get there, I order. It's probably like another 5 till I got to the window, and then they tell me, "Oh, we don't have Georgia Gold chicken right now. It's going to be like another 10 minutes." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me. I already paid for it." And they took my money. And so I was not happy. I go over, I park. Finally, I'm like, their lobby's closed. I'm to the point where I'm like, I'm not waiting. I'm just going to go to McDonald's. So I go and knock on the drive-thru window, request a refund. Then they try to get kind of snippy and said they don't accept walk-up customers. And I tried to keep it cool, Clayton, but that didn't work. I mean, I did keep it cool, but I think they realized I was frustrated. Now, here's a good one. Last week, it was McDonald's, which is also horrible, but sometimes they end up having decent service somehow. And so line goes through smoothly, right? Just quickly, everything's great. I'm like, wow, I don't have to wait a long time. A drive-through serving its purpose, fast food, get it quickly and leave, right? So I do that, and as I pay, and I go to all these drive-thrus all the time. They know me, I think. And so I give the girl her money, have a nice day, thank you. And I'm coasting, right? And I see them open up the windows, and I'm not even kidding, Clayton. Hand on the brake, I'm bracing the steering wheel. It's safe, there's nobody ahead of me. Now I don't even pump the brakes, and it's a flawless handoff. Boom, 2 breakfast burritos in my car, and she's laughing the whole time. Just a flawless handoff. I'm talking great transition right there. So that was pretty memorable because I think it was funny, and I got a good laugh out of it. So my computer died. I'm waiting for it to come back on. Here we go. Sorry, when it didn't die, I hit the power button. Told you guys today's show would be pretty casual, so hopefully you're having fun. We're going to get into some football talk here in a second. I just wanted to have fun with that question, and I want to get to the other questions. So without further delay, let's get to another one. Oh, and then Clayton said this could probably be its own new spin-off podcast. Yes, Clayton, I agree. I think that just happened, so I will credit you with the idea. Sean at Sean Holst 13. Will Michigan's defense pick up where it left off? Well, when you have back-to-back number 1 ranked defenses, total scoring defense, and just total defense in general, you had the top ranked defense back-to-back years. I think it. And you lose, let's see, Taco Charlton, Chris Wormley, Jordan Lewis, DeMonte, all the guys I talked about in the secondary. Expected drop-off? I mean, it's really hard to stay at the top, right, with all those experience. So, I mean, will Michigan's defense pick up where it left off? I still think Michigan's defense will be a strength. I think it will be the strength. I don't know if it will be the top-ranked defense in the country, but here's a fun stat, and I think it is something to keep in mind when you look at the development of the players. Don Brown has had the number 1 ranked defense in the country for 3 years running, right? Because he had in 2014 before he got hired by Arbor, and that's the reason why Arbor wanted him. He's like, who's this guy at Boston College? He beat us in every category. So yeah, Don Brown last year he comes number 1 ranked defense. I mean and like I said, he's had it for 3 years in a row. So I don't think that there's going to be a drop-off. Will Michigan's defense pick up where it left off, Sean? In terms of being the strength of the team, the backbone, Harbaugh called it the spine last year. I believe so. So in that capacity and context, yes. Dustin, we're going to save all the Wilton. I want to save the Speight stuff for another time. And I want to remind everyone, Thomas Bendit, my co-host, he and I do... he's been busy this summer and everything, but we're getting with football season. It's going to be he and I on a regular basis, and we're going to break down Michigan's 3 losses. And because everybody wants to pin that on Wilton Speight, the Ohio State game, the Florida State game, the Iowa game. That's all Wilton's fault, right? So we're going to break down those games, and we're going to really find the culprit. And it is not Wilton Speight all the time. And as last time I checked, there's 11 guys on both sides of the ball. So unless, I'm not even going to get into it. You guys know. I did make, this one's good too because food. I wanted to wait to do the podcast until I got tacos. And Trevor, at Michigan _ 1974. And Trevor, I'm sorry. I know you're the one who called me out. I say it's going to be a short podcast. He said, just don't say anything. Just don't tell us it's going to be short. I said I need to wait for my tacos, eat my tacos, and then start the podcast. He said, there's a third step you'll need to take care of before you go live. And I was like, what is that? I don't know what he meant. And then he says, here we go. Don't make me type it. You only rent tacos for a short time. Duly noted. Duly noted. I think that's all the questions. Kyle Miller, he's on my Flint Wolves CBL team. I'm going to assume the debate has something to do with Wilton Speight in the offensive line, and that's a reply to how Thomas and I are going to break down the 3 losses and get in that discussion and debate. So yes, Kyle, you are absolutely right. Okay, let's start with the Michigan Wolverines. What should you expect at Big Ten Media Day? Well, they're going to be asking questions about staff members, right? They're always going to be Jay Harbaugh. I want to pull up this Tim Kawakami tweet real quick because Michigan has added, reportedly, it's not confirmed yet, but Michigan has added another. Nick Baumgartner actually had wrote on this earlier today, and let me see here. I'm sorry, it is just being pretty slow. Oh, I can't find it right now. I'll go back to that. Anyway, what to expect at during Michigan State, I'm sorry, here I'm losing track. Big Time Media Days for Michigan. Okay, there's going to be all kinds of questions about Wilton Speight. We know that. There will be questions about the staff, most notably the coaching staff, the on-field coaching staff. Jay Harbaugh has moved to running backs coach. Greg Fry, he coordinates the run game, tackles and tight ends, so they'll be working together. I think everybody's going to want to know about their relationship, development of the running backs. Kareem Walker, for instance. A lot of people are talking about Kareem. Consider, Chris Evans, Karan Higdon, too. That's a very nice trio for the Wolverines. So I expect that. I expect there will probably be a question, wonder who is going to get more reps, Bunting, Wheatley, or Eubanks? And Micah, I think. I'm sorry, I just saw that. I think it's going to be Wheatley. I think he's a Mackey watch lister right now too, right? So I really like Ian Bunting, but I think as far as a more complete tight end who could do a little bit more, to me, Ian's more of the athletic type. I don't really view him as a bruiser. I think Tyrone kind of has a little bit of that. Tyrone's got more of the brawn. I think Ian has a little bit more of the flashy athleticism. But I think that Tyrone is going to be the number 1 tight end. I think they'll bring in Ian Bunting, maybe like when they spread it out or something like that. So that's just my guess right now. But I think it'll be Tyrone Wheatley Jr. Getting the most reps. So, reps, that kind of stuff, that'll be a question. Rashawn Gary. Rashawn's being recognized as a possible Player of the Year candidate. I mean, this guy just had a fantastic freshman debut. He was very energetic during spring interviews. I remember talking to him after the spring game. Rashawn's all about improvement. Rashawn's all about helping lead this defense. And that goes back to the question I fielded earlier. Is the defense going to pick up where it left off? Well, Chris Wormley really rubbed off on Rashawn Gary. I think so. And Chris was a terrific leader. Locker room presence, leader on the field, fantastic football player. So that'll be a topic. I think people will want to know the status of Grant Perry. I don't expect to see Grant Perry this year. I really don't. I think that people are going to ask, how do you replace Jabril Peppers? That's going to be a huge question, right? He was a Heisman finalist, Nagurski finalist, Horning finalist. He's a guy who could do everything and he could do it well. So I think that Michigan players will get that question. Harbaugh will probably get that question as well. There's a few more. I don't want to spoil the surprise, so tune into that. It'll be on my Twitter account at AdamBiggers81 or tune in, click whatever. Check it out. It'll be up this weekend. Now for Michigan State. And I'll go over that more in depth this weekend because I want to wait for it's live for people to read it. This one is live, so I'll go through this one more in depth. This is Michigan State. preview. Who's going to be there? It's Mark D'Antonio, Brian Allen. He's a center, Chris Fry, linebacker, and Gerald Holmes, running back. Gerald from my neck of the woods, Flint, Carmen Ainsworth. Kid, hell of a player, hell of a kid. Gerald Holmes, it's good, and I think it's great for the Flint area, especially with everything going on. I think everybody knows about Flint and the school closings and the just I guess the reputation of Flint. Let's even forget the water thing. We're not even talking about the water thing, just in general. And I think that Gerald, believe it or not, I mean I live right by an elementary school, and these little kids out here. I remember going up and throwing with one of my Sunday league teammates, Dwayne, and these little kids out here, they're talking about Monte Morris. They're talking about they want to be Monte, they want to be Kyle Kuzma, they want to be Gerald Holmes, those kind of guys. They want to be Thomas Rawls. So Gerald is one of those guys, representing the Flint community well. So he'll be there anyway. I think these are going to be the ones. The main questions asked for Michigan State is L.J. Scott ready to lead the Spartans offense? Because, and I've said this before, Michigan State needs a leader. The quarterback's got to be the leader. It's Connor Cook, Kirk Cousins. We've already seen that. Brian Lewerke, I don't know if he's that type of guy yet. I don't know if he's been around long enough, really. He's only a redshirt sophomore, right? So, he's entering his third year there. He's been around enough. But, Tyler O'Connor was a fifth-year guy, and I think a lot of people had high expectations for Tyler as far as leadership goes. Last year was, pretty much a major cluster for the Spartans. So LJ he's on the Maxwell watch list too. So I think that you have to at least consider LJ as the leader of the offense. He's their best offensive weapon. Now that Donnie Corley's not there, the wide receiver, he was dismissed in connection to a sexual assault allegations with Josh King and Demetric Vance. So, and then 4 players in total, Austin Robertson, defensive lineman, that was a separate incident. So that's, of course, going to be brought up. The four players, how do they bounce back? And I think that'll be more from the non-local media. The local media, guys like Solari, Kyle Charbonneau, all those guys, they've been all over it. So I don't expect that they already know. So, I don't expect a lot of questions like that from them. So, pressure on Brian Lewerke, probably more from like the national outlets. Pressure on Brian Lewerke, and I think I just alluded to it there. So there's going to be some pressure. Replacing Malik McDowell. How do you replace Malik McDowell? He had like 24.5 tackles for loss during his 2 years career as a starter, or 3 years starter. I'm sorry. So that's going to be difficult. The 3-person committee, and Michigan State has an oversight committee now. And it's Evan Daniels, Alan Haller, and Jennifer Smith. And they all have roles within the athletic department. But now, it's like they're the high-level babysitters. There's really no... And I'm not trying to be cynical here, but, that's the only way I can think of it. Okay, all these kids get in trouble. Boom, we got to have people put in place to watch over the football team. And that's the way that I take it. Obviously they do more. They're going to attend team meetings, practices, but like I said, it's not just a tongue-in-cheek joke. There is a bit of truth to that. They are high-level babysitters because they're going to teach these guys how to manage their time and oversee their off-field behavior. And schools do that already, right? When you're at that age, you're a college guy and you have so much going on for you. Of course, you want to sit people down and teach you how to manage your time. I wish I could manage my time better. So that goes on everywhere. But the going to practices, the team meetings, and kind of overseeing off-field behavior, it's much more of a closer eye. I want to read a quote from you that comes from Mark Hollis, Michigan State athletic director. He said, "I think our entire department needs it. The reason I went with football is obviously these issues bring about attention, but there are so many things changing with the NCAA legislation relative to the role of student athletes, but also in society. Our society is changing at a pace that's much quicker than any of us that are here right now. We need to be much more savvy and be able to be responsive to those changes. It's a combination of restriction on time, being able to..." And why did I do that? It's a combination of restriction on time, being able to better understand what they're doing with their time, understand what they're doing with the money they receive while they're on campus, talking with them about their lives. Those conversations take a long time. Is D'Antonio on the hot seat? Graham Couch of the Lansing State Journal wrote a column. He cited the ominous vote of confidence that we see so many coaches get before they're fired. Is D'Antonio on the hot seat? I don't think it's slightly warm. because of what's gone on, right? And I think that there's more attention on him. Michigan State would have to have another disastrous season for the Spartans to, I think, even part ways with D'Antonio. There would have to be some kind of massive scandal bigger than the sexual assault, or there would have to be something, you know, brought from the past that shows that, you know, if there was any wrong, and I'm not saying there was, but you know what I mean. It'd have to be damning for Michigan State to even think of getting rid of Mark D'Antonio. He won 11 games in five of the 6 previous seasons before last year. I mean, Rose Bowl championship, Big Ten titles. Mark D'Antonio is the guy who brought Michigan State football. I won't even say back, because forgetting the 60s when they were a national power, but during my lifetime, Michigan State has never been a national power. Michigan State got good with Nick Saban. That was my high school years, and then Nick bolted. And Mark D'Antonio came in, after Bobby and John L. And it's been nothing but progress, nothing but improvement, nothing but winning for Michigan State. So long story short, they got to win. They have another horrible year like they did this past season. Even if there's no off the field issues, people are going to start getting restless. That's the nature of the business. And I don't think that Mark D'Antonio is the type of coach who would leave if things got rough. I think if Mark D'Antonio leaves Michigan State, it'll be Michigan State asking Mark D'Antonio to leave. And again, I'm not insinuating that he is on the verge of losing his job. This is just all talk. But realistically, if there's more problems, more another 3-9 season, you get the picture. Poop rolls downhill, right? What really happened with Curtis Blackwell? That is a question I want to ask, because we've never gotten an adequate answer. Never clear, except for philosophical change. But for 5 years, since August 2013, I believe, when he was hired, Curtis Blackwell was a guy that people talked about being great with the players, yada yada yada. He's never charged with no criminal charges in Ingham County. So that's fall guy. I don't know. Somebody's gonna ask that question. If it's not me, it's going to be somebody, because I still think that is a topic that needs to be addressed. Anytime a member of a staff is let go, and of course they're not just gonna, oh really, Adam, I'm glad you asked. Here, I'm gonna tell you everything you want to know. You want to go sit in the back room? I'll tell you everything. We'll call Curtis. It's not gonna happen like that. But if there's some kind of explanation, or those questions are just going to get brushed aside and dodged. They want to focus on the future. So, I mean, I actually expect a lot of that from Mark D'Antonio and the Michigan State players in Chicago. If they're asked about last year, it's going to be focus on this. And they're not going, they're probably going to try to stay away from all the sexual assault talk as possible, which is, in all fairness, I mean, the guys who were involved with that aren't there anymore, right? So it'd be unfair to sit here and throw all these questions, or too many questions at the players. I think, how does it affect you guys? That kind of thing. How do you guys move on, rebound? Those are fair. But, I mean, if people start digging, these guys don't know. They weren't part of it. So, I mean, those were their teammates, and that was that. So, again, I'll have the Michigan Big Ten Media Day preview, what to expect. Went over a little bit right now. That was the Michigan State preview. I want to thank everybody for watching. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. I'll be in Chicago for Big Ten Media Days, Monday and Tuesday. And like I said, I'll have all kinds of written stuff, columns, content, live streams, video interviews, everything that I've been doing, I guess, for the past handful of years anyway. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Again, Sports and Mitten Podcast. We're on Facebook at Mitten Sports MI on Twitter. Follow my co-host Thomas Bendit at TBendit, and that's BEINDIT. And follow BT Powerhouse. That's on SB Nation as well. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and tune back in next week when I have, actually probably tomorrow. We'll go over the Michigan thing. But again, next week, I can't emphasize that enough, the Big Ten Media Day coverage. Matt the Destroyer Dang just joined. You can watch it again. Promise, Matt. Once it's posted, you can watch it again. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. I got a couple late like blurbs in there and then they disappear. I caught that one. But thanks again, everybody, for watching, and I'll catch you next time.